Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fall. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
All right, so don't forget it's debate night tonight. It starts, I believe, at 8 o'clock Eastern time on CNN. And there will be 10 candidates on the stage. Marianne Williamson, Tim Ryan, Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, Bernie and Elizabeth, Beto O'Rourke, John Hickenlooper, John Delaney. Who? John Delaney and Steve Bullock, the governor of Montana. So that should be good. But almost lost completely in all this craziness is the fact that Donald Trump is trying to put in a man named John Ratcliffe, who is the second most conservative legislator in this country, who comes from a town in Texas that has a population of 8,000 people. Not kidding. Who has misrepresented his legal career as being a guy who prosecuted terrorists. ABC News, CNN, everybody has gone crazy trying to find any case of John Ratcliffe prosecuting a terrorist, and no one can find one because it didn't happen. And they want to make him the DNI. They want to put him on top of all the intel agencies, which is just putting a loyalist into the intel agencies so that the intelligence community can now tell Donald Trump what he wants to hear, which is the exact opposite of intelligence. This man auditioned for this job at the Mueller hearing by trashing Bob Mueller and saying Bob Mueller didn't follow the law. Donald Trump broke the law, but John Ratcliffe's position was Bob Mueller broke the law. You talk about projection. This was just so bizarre. But you check this out. This is what's happening here. You got the purpose of John Ratcliffe as being the DNI is to weaponize the intelligence services, just like Cheney did, to take us to war. Now, you're probably going to hear during this election cycle, well, they got it wrong on Iraq. No, they didn't. Richard Clark wasn't wrong on Iraq. Clapper wasn't wrong on Iraq. The intelligence community got it right on Iraq. Dick Cheney manipulated the intelligence. Dick Cheney was on the TV. Condi Rice was on the TV. They were all on the TV saying, we don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud. Never forget that. They manipulated the intelligence. The Bush administration themselves took what the intelligence community told them about Iraq, and that was that they had no weapons of mass destruction. They didn't have, these mobile laboratories filled with gases and anthrax. They didn't have the ability to make a nuclear weapon. The aluminum tubes were like lawn chairs. Seriously, dude, they were like lawn chairs. They weren't for, uranium enrichment. And they lied and manipulated the American people to the point where Colin Powell, to his everlasting shame, he sat there with a little vial full of baby powder and said, this is anthrax. And none of that was true. The International Atomic Energy Agency, Hans Blix, said it wasn't true. The unscum inspectors, they said it wasn't true. And what did they do? They turned around, they called the unscum inspector, who used to do our show all the time, was trying to tell everybody this is just an illegitimate war. He has no weapons of mass destruction. His name was Scott Ritter. They kept telling him he's a pedophile. They kept calling Scott Ritter a pedophile. Do you remember that? Everyone's a pedophile that they don't like. Hillary Clinton's a pedophile. Bill Clinton's a pedophile. But here's what you have to believe, that Bill Clinton is a pedophile, but Ken Starr covered it up for him. And Newt Gingrich, who was the Speaker of the House during the Clinton impeachment, covered it up for him, for Bill Clinton. I mean, give me a freaking break. People are delusional out there. People are crazy. They're just nuts. They say Trump derangement syndrome. That is what they have, which is why they say we have it. This is insanity. This is crazy. This is, I mean, here's John Ratcliffe auditioning for his job by saying exactly the opposite of what is true, that Bob Mueller broke the law, not Donald Trump.
The very first line of your report, says, and as you read this morning, it authorizes the special counsel to provide the Attorney General with a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel. That's the very first word of your report, right?
That's correct.
Here's the problem, Director. The special counsel didn't do that. On volume 1, you did. On volume 2, with respect to potential obstruction of justice, the special counsel made neither a prosecution decision or a declination decision. You made no decision. You told us this morning and in your report that you made no determination. So respectfully, Director, you didn't follow the special counsel regulations. It clearly says, write a confidential report about decisions reached. Nowhere in here does it say, write a report about decisions that weren't reached. You wrote 180 pages. 180 pages about decisions that weren't reached, about potential crimes that weren't charged or decided. And respectfully, by doing that, you managed to violate every principle and the most sacred of traditions about prosecutors not offering extra prosecutorial analysis about potential crimes that aren't charged. So Americans need to know this as they listen to the Democrats and socialists on the other side of the aisle,
Jesus.
as they do dramatic readings from this report, that volume 2 of this report was not authorized under the law to be written. It was written to a legal standard that does not exist at the Justice Department. And it was written in violation of every DOJ principle about extra prosecutorial commentary. I agree with the chairman this morning when he said Donald Trump is not above the law. He's not. But he damn sure shouldn't be below the law, which is where volume 2 of this report puts him.
This is exactly backwards, okay? This is exactly backwards. This was a unique situation in that Robert Mueller believed that the memo, not even a law, but that the memo at the OLC said he was prohibited from indicting a sitting president and that the proper constitutional remedy lied with Congress. That would be impeachment. And so he laid out a roadmap for impeachment and handed it to Bill Barr, who then lied. Bill Barr has weaponized the Justice Department and turned it into Donald Trump's own defense firm. And now this guy Ratcliffe, he's a rat. This guy Ratcliffe is going to be in charge of the intelligence agencies. What? He's going to weaponize the intelligence agencies the way that Bill Barr weaponized the DOJ? Oh, hello, everybody. Can you say Stasi? Do you know what the Stasi is? Secret police, German secret police, where you rat out your neighbor. You start making phone calls and you say, my neighbor is anti-Trump. My neighbor needs to be picked up. My neighbor needs to be jailed. My neighbor needs to have their freedom of movement restricted because they're not down with us. They're not part of the Trump pansies. They're not part of the cult. They're not part of Cult 45. They're not part of Al-Qaeda. Translated into English, Al-Qaeda means the base. This is dangerous, man. This is worse than what Cheney did. This is worse than the Bush administration. This is worse than Ashcroft. This is worse than anything you ever saw. This is worse than the Patriot Act, which, by the way, still around. People go crazy when they find out a bank has all your personal information. Wait till you find out that Trump does. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.